Alright, so the next night comes in, and more red flags show up. So they basically first they talk business, you know, whatever, and then Dracula starts talking to him, basically tells him that he is immortal.
Centuries come and go. To be unable to grow old is terrible.
And none of this, once again, is any sort of red flag.
Can you imagine enduring centuries, experiencing each day the same futile things?
Alright, so our main character is about to give him the contract, and Dracula basically fucking yanks locket that has the picture of Lucy, his wife, on it, and he starts basically creepily staring at it and shaking and breathing very loudly. And after which he says, "The house that I'll be getting is very near your house, right?"
Very near to your lodgings, I understand.
Yes, it's just around the corner.
And our main character is just like, "Oh yeah, totally, yeah, we're gonna be neighbors." And the fact that he was just staring at his wife's picture doesn't really, once again, disturb him at all. So Dracula basically immediately says, "I'm getting the house," all hyped and shit.
I will send it immediately.
Yes.
And our main character is like, "Alright, great, job well done, friend. Let's just sign this contract and go on with our merry lives." Dracula signs the contract, and then we're greeted to this. Alright, so now in the original film, this definitely is one of the most creepiest scenes. And it's a very iconic scene where, you know, you can see Nosferatu at the end of the hallway and he's slowly creeping toward the main character. And I'm glad that they didn't copy it fully. They actually changed it and they did this. Jesus fucking Christ. Seeing that fucking pale motherfucker just come out of the shadow so close to our face is gotta be one of the fucking creepiest shots I've ever seen. And yeah, the rest of this scene is pretty fucking terrifying as well. Alright, so now once again we're greeted to a situation in which our main character isn't really reacting accordingly, which makes me believe either three things. A, Nosferatu is casting some sort of spell on him, which I don't know, I haven't read the books, so maybe in the book it's explained that he, you know, throws some sort of spell on them. But in here, he just sort of, you know, doesn't react very accordingly. So either there's a spell that's being cast on him, he is a pussy bitch who can't even fucking move, or C, he secretly is hoping that Dracula will fuck him. Yeah, he secretly has a crush on him, and he's just lying there hoping that Count Dracula will have his way with him, which is the only thing that I can say that makes any fucking sense in this situation. So the wife once again has a premonition of what's going on, and she knows that, you know, Jonathan is getting his blood sucked by this weird looking motherfucker. So now next morning, Jonathan wakes up and finally for the first time he actually realizes, uh-oh, something's fucking wrong. Yeah, Count Dracula isn't really the nicest of person and he has actually been molesting him 2 nights in a row. So he starts erratically running around the house trying to find a way out. He attempts to open this shitty, flimsy looking wooden door once, fails, and he immediately gives up. He sees that Dracula is preparing to go, so he's now in a state of panic. So his plan on getting out is this. So apparently he finds a huge stock of white sheets that he uses to create this rope in which he climbs down, but he doesn't make it long enough and the dipshit ends up falling on his ass and fainting. He wakes up in the morning, all once again panicky, but actually feeling really sick. And he tries to find the fastest way to get back home before Dracula gets there and I guess fucks his wife or kills his wife or whatever. So finally, you know, he has some sense that there is some sort of danger and urgency here. So good for him. Now in this point in the movie, in the original 1922, we're greeted by an extended segment on this boat, in which we're introduced to these completely new characters, and it's basically Nosferatu killing, or Dracula killing everyone on this boat. Now in the original, that segment is a bit too long, and it kind of doesn't really feel like, and it kind of feels like its own separate movie, which is kind of why I have a lot of issues with the pacing of the original film. In here, it's much shorter. We have one scene of, you know, Captain writing his log and basically saying that people are getting sick and dying, that there's a rat infestation, and they don't know like what's causing it or whatever. And once the, you know, ship arrives at the dock, we're greeted to one of my favorite shots of the entire film. Just seeing this like ghost ship with a corpse at its wheel board this peaceful town is very like eerie and creepy and sad, kind of, because you know what's coming. You know that this happy, lucky going town is no longer going to be like that. However, even the townspeople here don't really act very accordingly to this situation, or react, sorry. So they find that everyone on board is dead, and they think that it's because of the plague. So instead of immediately like burning the ship or something, they just let rats get out of there and infest everything, which, you know, is fine, I guess. Meanwhile, that's all happening, we get reintroduced to Renfield, who for some reason is in an insane asylum. So he's basically having an episode in which he's saying that, you know, black coffins are coming, death is coming, and whatever, and our main characters and our villagers are just basically like, okay. So now the ship has come, rats are coming out, they know it's a plague, but I guess they're just like, okay, you know, they don't burn the ship or, you know, push the ship away or try to, you know, lead the ship away from the town. They just kind of, you know, let the, you know, plague infest them, which, okay, fine, it's, you know, good. And then we're greeted to the funniest scene of the film, which isn't intentionally funny, but I find it hilarious. And it was the first time that I really felt like I'm starting to get less scared of Dracula, because we get an extensive scene of him taking the coffins out of the boat and fucking carrying them all the way to the house. Now, the reason that I find this scene funny and silly is because you know, he's supposed to be, you know, scary. And usually, like, you know, in horror movies when, like, you know, the villain kind of sets up, like, this, like, elaborate, like, traps and whatever schemes, and, you know, they're creepy when you watch them, and, you know, they're scary when the characters are going through them. But when you think about, like, the actual villain, like, going out and, like, making it and, like, doing all this, like, physical labor, it kind of, you know, is silly and funny. But in here we actually see the main villain actually doing hard physical labor in order to, you know, make his scheme come true, which, you know, isn't really particularly scary, although it does really give us some more beautiful looking shots, like this one over here. So after that is over, Jonathan finally arrives at home. However, he is not his usual self. He doesn't remember who his wife is. He's not really, he doesn't remember anyone or anything. He seems very scared, he's sweating, and he seems very erratic, which, you know, everyone finds weird, but we know that it's because he's been bitten by a vampire and he is slowly, you know, turning into one.
Who is this woman?
So that scene passes by and we're greeted to this. Get out of my fucking face, dude. Holy shit. Yeah, this lingering fucking shot of him just staring there. He is one creepy motherfucker. And then we get our first scene of him being a actual sex offender, which, you know, is just chill, I guess. Yeah, he tries to come on to Lucy, Jonathan's wife, who rejects him. Yeah, she straight up tells him, I don't want to fuck you, you creepy looking motherfucker. And also because she knows that, you know, he caused Jonathan all of these problems and the hardships and whatever.
And you may rest assured that even the unthinkable will not deter me.
So he takes that actually pretty well, you know, he doesn't go angry or anything, he just is like, okay, and goes away, which is, you know, pretty nice of him, you know. A lot of people don't do that. A lot of people don't just say okay and go away. They, he's actually not that bad of a guy, you know, this Dracula, he's actually pretty nice, yeah, he, you know, he respects women, which is, he respects consent, which is, you know, dope, I guess. And now we're getting some scenes in which we show the town slowly dying because of this because of this plague that it's getting infested by. You know, we get these really somber shots of people, you know, carrying coffins, and it's really sad and depressing and really effective. And then we get treated to a scene of Jonathan being a creepy motherfucker. Just sitting there in the background and creepily smiling and watching his wife. And then he just starts laughing, which, yeah.
Approach.
So then we find out that Renfield is actually Dracula's subordinate, and they have our first scene together, and thankfully our last scene with Renfield, because he asks Dracula what he wants him to do, and Dracula basically tells him to turn around and go fuck himself. Which luckily he does, and we never see him again.
Go north to Riga.
And he seems annoyed by him as much as the audience does, which, you know, makes me like Dracula even more. You know, he's actually a good guy. I like him, even though he still looks like a fucking weirdo. And we get another scene which, you know, shows now even more coffins getting carried out. Jonathan's wife comes in, asks to speak to the mayor, or, you know, to go to the city hall, and she finds out that the mayor is dead. There's no longer any city hall. Basically, the town is dying and there's not much people left. You know, we see that all the houses are barricaded, and it really gives you a very good sense of, you know, dread, and like this town is actually dying without ever showing us any corpses aside from this poor horse here. Yeah, which is very effective, you know, like nowadays usually like they would like show like disgusting corpses, you know, to be all edgy and shit, but this movie doesn't really do that, but it still gives you a very good sense of, you know, dread, and you know how fucked up this whole situation really is, which I, you know, give the movie a lot of props to.
I must go to the town council.
It's dissolved. It exists no more.
Then I have to see the mayor.
He's dead.
So then she talks to Dr. Van Helsing, Okay, and she comes up with a plan, and she finds out basically how to kill Dracula. However, you know, Van Helsing doesn't want to help her with that because he doesn't believe her, and she decides that she's going to take care of him by himself, which is, you know, great. And with that, she actually, you know, presents herself as the actual main protagonist of this film, while Jonathan is still being really creepy in the background. Alright, so then Dracula Naruto runs a little bit. Then she finds out that she has to, you know, spread garlic all over the rats, and somehow that would, you know, she thinks that that would stop the plague, which you know, that doesn't happen. And then we're treated to my favorite scene in the entire film. Almost the entirety of the town has been wiped out. There are very few people left. Rats are everywhere. Everything is, you know, dead. And the few remainder of the people who are still alive are having a party, but it's a very somber party. They're enjoying their last few days of their existence, and it's really somber and sad, and it's one of the most depressing scenes, not just of this film, but generally, like one of the most depressing scenes that I've ever watched, and it's so well done. It's followed by this really somber music, and it's definitely my favorite, you know, scene in the entire film. When she passes the main square in which everyone is partying, she visits this family who is having a, you know, nice little family, you know, lunch. You know, everyone's dressed really nicely, you know, there's a lot of food, and rats all around them, and coffins. And it's basically, you know, as they say, it's their last supper. And then it cuts from, you know, this scene immediately to this.
We've all caught the plague. We must enjoy each day that's left.
Which is also a very good transition, and one of the other reasons why I really like this entire scene. It's so well done, and I cannot stress enough how much I love this scene. So finally, she finds out how to defeat Dracula by basically making herself as bait for him, and keeping him in her room the entire night, basically kind of seducing him until sunlight comes up, and he gets burned by the sun and he dies. And unfortunately, she dies in the process because, you know, she got her blood drank. So now Van Helsing comes in. He finds, you know, her dead and Dracula on the ground. So he takes a wooden stake and impales it through him, you know, to sort of finish the job and kill him for good. And then Jonathan basically tells the authorities that Van Helsing killed the Count, and Van Helsing gets arrested. And even though she put like this circle of garlic around Jonathan, which, you know, prevented him from going out, she didn't kill him as well. And this maid actually, you know, wipes the garlic from the floor, releasing Jonathan from his confinement, and giving us another really funny scene. I don't know what about it, but just him like making this quick move and going heh, is really funny to me. But now we see him looking all creepy and shit, and once again, nobody's really questioning. Nobody's like, hey Jonathan, why do you have two creepy looking thief, and why you have two freaking looking thief, you know, in front of you? But, you know, I guess whatever. And the movie ends on a pretty somber note, because even though Count Dracula is dead, Jonathan is still alive, and he's going to continue wrecking chaos, and everything is wrong with the world. And that was Nosferatu. Even though, like, once again, I do find a lot of the way the characters react to a lot of situations kind of weird. I still really love this movie. Like, the shots and like all the scenes are very well done. The music is perfect. The acting is really good. The movie is really creepy, although I wouldn't say it's really scary in the, you know, by today's standards, because, you know, we're used to like constantly getting like shouted at and like constantly getting like you know, frightened, and, you know, a lot of jump scares. Like, this doesn't have any jump scares, but it's a really creepy, unsettling, somber, sad, depressing movie. And if you're a fan of horror, I definitely do recommend it. It really inspired me a lot and inspired the script that I'm currently writing, even though it's a completely different type of movie. A lot of the shots in this movie did, you know, inspire me. So yeah, I would definitely recommend watching this. It's one of, you know, I only watched it recently and I watched it once, but I will watch it again. And it actually might, you know, go into like the list of one of my favorite horror movies. I'm not sure yet, but yeah, it's a very enjoyable movie, and I do kind of enjoy talking more about these like older movies than like watching these new like superheroes or whatever. So yeah, I do recommend this movie, and I hope you enjoy it. That's it. See ya.